Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
So we've reframed anxiety that we've talked about throughout the course of this week, not as, strictly speaking, something to directly attack, but in fact, something to identify and pursue as an angle for growth. And so what does that mean? Like, why would we do this? I think the answer to the why we would do this is obvious, right? Growth and development gives you more agency. More agency allows you to be more in control. More in control means you get to essentially feel like your life is within your own due bounds, right? We get to now circle back to the original opener of the conversation. We can start to understand that if anxiety is a useful tool to point us at a solution, we can start to listen to our body, listen to the feelings that we're getting, listen to that, what's going on, look for the symptoms and behaviors. Because we now can value anxiety, we can start to be a little bit more aware of it. We can note when we reach for that sweet treat or the crunchy stuff or, the stimulants of all kinds, the things that we'll use to medicate and make ourselves feel better in the moment to try and release that tension. We'll know now as we go for that reach to stop and think for just a second, am I doing this because I'm hungry or because I'm anxious? Am I doing this because I want this thing or because I want this other feeling I have to go away? If it's the latter, if it's I want to make this feeling go away, that's good information. It's useful. I want to make this feeling go away. Now you begin your process. What's the feeling? Where does it come from? What am I afraid of? What anxiety is emergent right now? And what is it pointing me towards in terms of what actions can I take? What activity can I pursue to gain that or regain that agency? This process of refinement has all sorts of potentials. And one of them is, apart from, creating more and more agency and capacity, is things like paralysis. So to be clear, right, if you're feeling like your anxiety is not something you can overcome on your own, or that it's overwhelming to the point where you can't see it, get help. Get help in the form of a therapist. Get help in the form of talking to friends, family, colleagues, loved ones, lodge members, what have you. When you become paralyzed or frozen with fear, right, the only way through that process, or the only way out of that process, is to go through it, right, is to talk that out, to give those feelings that you have a name and a face, and then begin to nibble at the actions you can take, the small iterative change, that little bit of agency you can reclaim from the strong feelings you're having. As you do this, a couple of other things will happen, right? So that's the kind of what happens if it gets worse, the anxiety gets worse. Again, there's all sorts of ways to go from there. Medicines are great, and your therapist or person you're talking to can help you find those to help give you more cognitive breathing room so you can take on the behaviors you need. But alternatively, if you're in a place where you're sort of starting to make this work, you've identified that you're anxious about a thing, you've started to take action, and that thing is no longer making you anxious or nervous over time, this is awesome. What you'll find will happen is that your instrumentation, your intrapersonal sort of dashboard, if you will start to get more sensitive. And you'll begin to understand even smaller and more subtle changes and more nuance. That's not a bad thing. When you get better instrumentation and better capacity, you can then be more responsive and identify even better those opportunities. a lot of folks mistake that increased sensitivity for some level of weakness. And in fact, that sensitivity isn't that. It is much finer calibration of instrumentation, right? It is understanding the system well enough to begin to meaningfully take action with less data, less input. These sensitivities that we have should drive us to behaviors that we're going to use to grow. Don't mistake that higher level of heightened sensitivity as fragility. Just because you can feel it better, feel the anxiety or understand the nuances of it better, doesn't necessarily make you more fragile. It only works that way if your default response is to shut down and not do anything with it. So the work here is look for those places where you're feeling anxious, understand that it's an opportunity, pointing at a place for you to grow and develop as a person, and then take the smallest action you can, systematize it, improve it, and go from there. You'll find your resilience increases and your sensitivity increases, which will give you a much, much stronger outcomes moving forward. You'll have a richer life experience because you can appreciate the subtleties more. You'll have a deeper life experience because the things that used to shake you don't anymore, and you can be present even in the face of strong emotion. And in that presence, you have a more rich and fulfilling experience. This is the quest. Go do the work.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.